Hi everyone, my name is Bill Farquharson. Welcome to the Sales Training Program. That right over there is Kelly Malazzi.
Hi.
There we go. Kelly and I are here to go over a number of subjects, starting with this first one, which is where to look for prospects. We could probably do a whole seminar on our background, but we will spare you. Just know that we both come from the industry, that we've got many, many years, many more than we wish to mention, in sales, in print, in wide format, labels. I've sold some packaging. Kelly has sold equipment, digital, variable. What am I missing, Kelly?
See, I just feel like everybody already knows who we are.
Oh, boy,
So,
that's a big statement right there. Wouldn't that be nice, huh? So, well, listen,
lots
our
and
job,
lots of stuff.
we've sold lots of stuff. Our job is to help you to do your job better. And we've put these little vignettes together to accomplish that goal. So let's start with the subject of knowing exactly where to look for leads. Because we figure it this way, you know, there's three main things that you need before you can step off the curb with a bunch of business cards. Where to look for leads, what to say, and what to do. So if you know those three things, you're 75% of the way there. There's lots of other stuff. You need a lot of experience, but this is where we begin. So today we've come up with 4 places to look for leads, and we're going to give you lots of different ideas, and we'll throw a bunch of stuff at you in a half hour's time. There's the library, which is one of Kelly's. There is, there's media. There's for pay. And then there's the environment. So those are the 4 that we're going to cover. And Kelly, you know, I still remember that first time we did a webinar, and you said you came up with libraries, and I was on camera going, "Oh my gosh, really?" And I
You
didn't think it was.
scoffed. You actually scoffed.
There was scoffing and there was gnashing of teeth. I didn't think it was really that powerful a source, but it has proven to be just the opposite. It's the single most effective and surprising source that we've got. So let's start there. I mean, Kelly, what are we looking for at the library? What makes it so unusual? You'd think in the world of technology, the library? Really?
Right, right.
So,
Well, it is the last bastion of information, and you know, being reliable, being something that's in your community that everybody has a kind of a right and a freedom and a privilege to use. And so there are 3 major kind of pieces to the library. One being the actual people there themselves. These are people with master's degrees and PhDs in figuring out how to find out stuff. I mean, they're awesome. You can put anything at them in terms of what you're looking for, and they can help you find it or show you how to do it yourself. So the reference librarians themselves are the first ones that I would encourage you to go and talk to. And the great thing about them is that they're all individuals too. So you could go into one library saying, "Hey, I want to find every $50 million company within a 50-mile radius," and you could walk into another library, ask that same question, and get there a different way.
okay.
So that's definitely the number one.
And you know,
Were you
this is, as I said, this has proven to be very popular. You think about it, because the librarian trick, these people are trained. They went to school. They went to college to learn how to look for the right thing. So, Kelly, how specific do I need to be when I'm saying, you know, this is what I'm looking for?
Well, again, you can be as specific or as general as you want to be based on kind of where you are in your kind of pursuit for business. I mean, it depends on your vertical markets and how, you know, again, how targeted you want to be. I mean, if you want to look for commercial real estate companies in Fairfield County, Connecticut, that bill between 50 and $300 million, you can be that specific.
Okay.
Or if you just want to look at real estate, you can be that broad. Does that
Okay.
answer your question?
It does, yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, literally get to know this person's name.
Yeah.
Follow up. Here's my business card. I'll be back next week. I'll be back next month. These people are dying for this kind of challenge.
Yes,
So,
they will be very happy to see you.
and
They will be very happy to see you.
they're staff members without the pay. You know, and they've
Yeah.
got resources to things like Redbooks and Info USA, and there's a lot of different databases that they can go online and help you find. Anything in particular that stands out, Kelly?
Well, again, you mentioned the two that are the other ones that are listed. Redbooks being an actual, up until probably recently, they may not even print it anymore. It may just exist online.
Mm.
But I literally used to page through these things and look for businesses. And it has a couple of components to it. Number one, it lists organizations and the key players within them and how much they spend on different advertising types. So it will actually say Kraft Foods spends, $1.2 billion on broadcast advertising, or 700,000 on out of home media. I mean, that's how specific it gets.
Right.
But it also lists the advertising agencies that work for those companies too. So if you're a printer or a provider who specializes in working with advertising agencies, this is golden information for you.
Okay.
So the Red Books exist, again, at your library, or they may have gone solely online. And we're going to get to that in the for pay piece. But the vast majority of libraries today are subscribing to the InfoUSA database that you can use from your home using your library card as a login and go in and do these searches yourself without having to even set foot in the library. Now, caveat I want to say here, Bill, not every library subscribes to this. I've discovered that. I had a couple clients call me and say, hey, I did what you told me to do, and I tried to do this InfoUSA thing, and my librarian told me they don't subscribe to it. I actually called a couple of libraries to try to find out why wouldn't you be subscribing to this, and they just said we didn't see the demand and we couldn't justify the expense. But as a taxpayer and as an advocate for yourself, that's something I would be asking my library to do if they don't, but the vast majority of them do. You can do radius searches, you can search by SIC codes, you can search generally, and there are literally 14 million businesses in this database.
Okay. So let's move on to the second one, which is media. Now, under media, we've got some different subcategories. The first one is newspapers. The second is social networking. So those are the two main ones that we jumped on. In terms of which newspapers, you know what? The major ones are simple, right? The Wall Street Journal. That's something that you can get a sample subscription for. And I believe at the time of this recording, it's $1 a week for 12 weeks, but they'll definitely try to hook you that way, and it's worth it. The second one is Barron's, and I'll go back with these things. The third might be your major city's newspaper. I'm south of Boston, so that would be the Boston Globe. Kelly, you've got the New York Times. You might have the Hartford Courant, but whatever. Then there's also your small town newspaper. Here I am in Duxbury. It's Duxbury Clipper is what we've got. And Kelly, you've got a local paper too. Have you figured out what it is yet?
Well, Westport, I guess, has a paper. I have yet to see it. But then there's also the, Patch is very big these days too. It's almost more like a community sourcing of information. That's what you call hyper local. You guys might have heard that phrase lately.
Right.
It's very, very specific to the community that you live in and tells you all about what's going on. And some of the things you're going to see there are businesses coming and going. Promotions, things like that. This is very, very important information for you to store in your brain.
Yeah, and press releases will get put in there. Help wanted. A company that's hiring is growing. You want to call on them.
Yep.
The business section, very important. All of these little subcategories. So, taking a look at this article, this is the way I read the Wall Street Journal. You take a look at an article, something you might just be flipping through, and it says, business school applications decline for 4 years. And this article says that applications are off 22%. I'm not applying to business school. I don't own a business school. I don't work for a business school. Kelly, you don't either.
Not yet.
Okay, so what do we care?
Right.
But here's the thing. You can write yourself into this opportunity pretty easily. Because, Dale Carnegie said you can get what you want when you figure out what the other guy wants and help him or her to get it. So what does the other person want? Well, if their applications are off 22%, I'm guessing that there is an admissions director out there going, oh my God, applications are off 22%. That's a sales call. So there's an opportunity right there to go and make that call. Find the person who is losing sleep at night. And then reverse engineer the call. Whip out a pad of paper and say, okay, so if they called me, what would I say in order to get more information out of them. You know, because one of two things are going to happen with that sales call, Kelly. You're either going to get an appointment, or you're going to get an appointment and you're going to get a no bid order, because you're getting in at the design stage of the job and not the quote
the bid
stage
at the
of
bid
job.
stage. Yep.
Right. So newspapers offer lots of opportunities. You know, you've got the help wanted, you've got general news, you've got the business section, new job announcements, new projects, and the like. Next up is social media. And of course, we could spend, what, a half an hour to an hour talking about all the different forms of social media. Really want to talk about the big one as a research tool, which is LinkedIn. LinkedIn is called the Facebook of business.
Probably.
Right, and it's your online resume and whatnot. So again, here I am trying to figure out where my best leads are. What makes other than putting myself up there and, you know, filling out all of the things that they ask and having a good profile, what kinds of groups should I belong to, and why are they important, Kelly?
Well, you would want to belong to some of the groups you'd want to belong to are ones that your potential clients would be involved in. So again, if it's commercial real estate, it's, you know, the LinkedIn for commercial real estate companies. Other ones would be your alumni associations. And this is, again, I think a bid for you to make your network as robust as you possibly can, because every connection gets you one step closer to somebody that you might need to know at some point. So again, being in the groups of that your clients are going to be in is vital if they'll let you in. Some of them are closed to only, you know, those people, but this is, to me, a research goldmine. I don't use it to send messages to people very often. I'm really just looking for the companies and the people and how I can make a connection or use something in there as a talking point to my opening sales call.
So look for current employees, but also past employees. That's another big one. Yep. Something that you will hear us talk about, I think, next week is looking for salespeople that work at the company, because they've got some great connections and they'll pick up the phone, whereas others might not. So really, there's a lot of great secrets. If you're going to join those groups, be a commenter. You want to have your name right up there with the influencer list, so that when you make a phone call to someone on a prospecting, they'll say, how do I know that name? And bing, it'll occur, LinkedIn. So the third group is for pay. And there are a number of different websites here. Kelly, do any of these stand out as, like, you know, better than the rest? We've got about 10 or 12 of them here.
You know what? I really like D&B and Hoover's. You know, for what it's worth, they're probably the most expensive, but they give a lot of really detailed information. And D&B, you can kind of bundle that with checking credit and things like that. So it might be a little easier for you to justify to your boss or yourself, if you're the business owner, that you can spend this money. They're all worth it. Each piece is a little bit different. You know, Jigsaw is kind of crowdsourced, so it's information that you put in, and then you get to get information out. But I don't want to, you know, poo-poo this situation at all, but I'm going to point out that InfoUSA is one of the ones listed here, and InfoUSA is the one that you can get for free from your library.
Right.
So it is worth it to you guys out there to spend a couple of minutes and click on each one of these and do the free trials. Here's what I'm going to say about free trials. Decide, okay, I'm going to do the D&B free trial and use the heck out of it for those 5 days. What you're gathering is information, company names and people, right? And so use the free trials where they're available. Again, Redbooks is one that you should be able to get through your library. Some may or may not be subscribing to this. But some of them, I believe that Sales Genie and InfoUSA are really all drawing from the same kind of pool of information. So, you know, again, if your company's willing to pay for this stuff, I would absolutely do it. It's worth doing, but I'm a big fan of Hoover's.
Okay. All right. And again, the free trial thing, I think, can't be understated, the value of that. The fourth section here is on environment. And this is just as it sounds. You know what? It's your world. You might be driving around and you find a lead, or you're networking. You know, it's funny. I'm a big believer in volunteering for all the right reasons. But as I pointed out in a blog once, slouches don't volunteer. The people that are doing volunteer work, they're at the top of their companies. They're C-level people. And, you know, you want to pull in those networks and those referrals in that networking environment. The third thing there is your mailbox. Kelly, what are we going to find in our mailbox that's going to be of any value?
Well, a ton of direct mail, and let's always respectfully call it direct mail and not junk mail. Especially you out there do not like to call it junk mail. And it's not junk mail. There's a lot of really interesting stuff in there. And what you're looking for in many cases is use this as an opportunity to look at a piece critically and ask yourself, is it doing the three things it's supposed to do? Is it well designed? Is it targeted to the right person? And is there something compelling about this piece that is going to compel the recipient to take some action? And if any of those three things or all of those three things are missing, then the next question has to be, could I do it better? And then that becomes your sales call. So it's, hey, I received this furniture ad, and my question is, the website's wrong. Or, I see that you spent, you made this investment in this direct mail piece, but it doesn't ask me to do anything. And I want to talk to you about ways that I might be able to do something like this for you and make it more effective and make it a better return on your investment. So the one thing that I beg all of my companies and all of my clients to do is to take a box and put it in your lunchroom and ask all of your employees to bring in all of their direct mail, and then let your salespeople go through it and use it as a lead source.
Right.
And you can even encourage everybody to put their initials on the pieces. And if anybody lands an appointment or lands a client from it, you give them some sort of a bonus for it.
Sure.
It's astonishing how few companies are doing this. And it is really a very worthwhile thing to be doing.
It's a lot easier to make a sales call with something in your hand.
Yep.
Than it is, to dig out and say, what do you do? So,
right.
So just to summarize this first section, we really want you to use that librarian, that business reference librarian, and find somebody that's resourceful. And of course, there's small libraries and big libraries, so really do your homework there. You also want to remember you're always looking, you're always driving around, you're always speaking to someone. It's amazing how you can go through a casual relationship with somebody, the father of your daughter who plays softball too, and all of a sudden you realize, holy cow, that guy with the hat on backwards, he's the president of a major bank in Boston.
Right.
Get that network out there. Remember birthdays. Write down everything you can think of when you have a conversation with someone. And then really refine that target market. That's one of the key points here, because you want to be able to know specifically who to call on, and you want to be able to say very quickly, they fit, they don't fit. So, all right, Kelly, well, thanks. That's our first section on where to look for leads, and we're off to a good start. So thanks for your help today. There was one more thing that I wanted to cover on the subject of where to look for prospects. I think it's important. It has to do with the target market. You'll hear Kelly and I talk about the keys to sales growth, and this is a fundamental issue. If someone calls and says, I'm not happy with my sales, I say, all right, here's what you need to do. You make a high-value sales call, a well-researched, well-thought-out sales call. You call on the right target market. You want to use a prospecting process, step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, and you want to apply that process with diligence. So the guarantee that I give is, look, if you make a high-value call on the right target market, using a process, applying it with diligence, if you do that, your success is inevitable. But key to this is the target market, because you can make a great call, but if you're calling on the wrong kind of client, it's all going to fall on deaf ears. And there's two aspects to this. One is the right client for you, right? This might be separated by age group. I'm in my mid-50s. I don't relate to some groups. When I was in my mid-20s, I didn't relate to some groups. It changes. Gender is another. You might sell better to one sex than the other. Then there's personality. I like doing business with people who are upbeat and positive, people who have got great attitudes, people who appreciate what I do. Some people that are very closed and quiet, I have a difficult time with them. And if you've never taken a personality test, take one. And you'll learn more about, we have a webinar on this as well, but you'll learn more about how to sell to these different personalities. And then finally, there's department within a company. I'll readily admit that when I was in my 20s, I was terrified of C-level. Terrified. I could not possibly imagine. I was little Billy Farquharson. How can I call on someone who's a CEO, who's a president? And now it doesn't faze me in the least. It's something you grow with, I guess. So you want to make sure you're calling on your customer. Likewise, you want to call on the right client for your company. It might be company sized. You're built for a certain size company, or maybe it's geographic location, but boy, you know what? We can't do business with somebody 100 miles away. It doesn't work. Or perhaps it's attitude towards marketing, and a part of that is what we call the buying philosophy. What that means is, we'll get into this more in the webinar on what to say, how do you do the research, but very quickly, looking at someone's website, if it says we're the lowest price flooring company in all of New England, they buy on price because they sell on price. That's what I mean by the buying philosophy. So that component that we'll talk about in that webinar is huge. But what I'm looking for as a goal here is what Malcolm Gladwell calls a blink moment. He wrote a book called Blink. He also wrote The Tipping Point. He wrote David and Goliath, The Outliers. Terrific, absolutely fantastic author. In Blink, what he says is, you want to make educated first impressions. All right, you have an opportunity here to learn who you should be calling on and identifying that person instantly. So you want to get fast at this. You want to get very quick. You want to have some great knowledge as to who should I be calling on, how do I know, how do I identify them very quickly, and then be able to say, all right, this is my client or this is not my client. It'll help you. Doing that triage will help you to determine how hard you want to work towards earning their business. Because if they're not in your sweet spot and you think to yourself, this is a real weakness, this is a bad prospect, it's just not going to happen. So again, now we're done with the subject of where to look for leads. I wanted to add that little component because I thought it was important. And next up, if you're following these in sequence, next up is what to say. How do you do the research to know what to say to get the appointments? So far so good, and I look forward to the next training session. Thanks, everybody.